Yeah, so like I said, I'm gonna start out with some updates on what I've pushed to staging because there've been quite a lot of updates that I've been working on. So like right now I'm looking at BTC. If I go into like a higher time frame, um, I have added volume by side, cumulative volume delta, or volume by size, I mean. So now you can see like basically what who is doing what, like what is the volume delta or the trend of what like certain players are doing. So of course we have like anything that's between like 0 to 1K, so really small trades, or 1 to 10K, so like somewhat larger trades. I mean, well, still small trades, but larger. 100 to 1, 10 to 100K, and then can't see it, but what's the other one? It's 1 million to 10 million and then 10 million plus. So 10 million plus like very rarely gets any activity, but when it does, like it does happen. And I think putting it in 10 million terms, like it does show that like there's a lot of volume. So if I actually add specifically 10 million volume by side here, you could see that there was a about a 723 Bitcoin short or 723 Bitcoin sell order that occurred here, and open interest went up. So you can assume that maybe this person actually opened a short here, uh, right here in particular. Yeah, so you could kind of derive that if you wanted to. Of course, like this data is very nuanced. But yeah, so this is available for all markets. So if I do a quick switch and I switch to like ETH perp, it's gonna load up the same data, and you can switch it between default, which shows you the actual CVD values. But obviously, like if you compare the sum to like well, generally speaking, what happens with this is that most of the volume, as you can see, is kind of occurring. I don't know if I want to say the most of the volume is occurring by smaller sizes, but generally speaking, the CVD for smaller sizes is going to be larger than the CVD for bigger sizes because there's just more volume occurring, or there's just more variability. I'm just going to say there's more volume occurring on smaller trades because it's generally what I'm like seeing. So of course that can be useful to know that information, but at the same time, like sometimes it's best to just put it on normalized, and you do lose the values, like you do lose what the actual values are plotted as, but because now it's normalized, you just get 50 and then 35 or whatever. But I do plan to add a setting to normalized charts where the data is simply normalized, but the actual like plotted value here is like not normalized. So you still get the labels that you'd get here, but just on a normalized chart like this. 'Cause I think that's like way more useful than just a straight up normalized chart. I'll probably set that as the default setting. Um, what else? But yeah, so this can be useful. Like I saw on SRM, like it was kind of interesting. If I go here and then I zoom in the 15-minute, and I zoom out. Now, one thing is that right now the CVD charts can get pretty laggy. As you can see, I'm dragging the chart and it's freezing. And that's because the CVD, like cumulative, well, all the indicators are calculated on a different thread, uh, so a different CPU thread. Well, they're calculated on the same thread that the chart is calculated on. So essentially, what's happening is when I move the chart, like CVD is calculated um, while I'm moving the chart, so the thread is blocked, and that's why it kind of lags. So it's something I need to figure out how to fix. I don't know if I will be able to fix it anytime soon, though. So yeah, so something that happened interesting on SRM was I saw that 2 days ago there was a large, like 150. If I open up volume by size and I look for, like I said, so there's you can see the CVD line for 100 to 1 million went up and then immediately back down. So someone in 100 to 1 million, they opened a uh, about a 150,000 contract sized position here. I think they opened it, but I also can't tell because open interest went down up here as well on the sell. So they definitely bought and then sold. But yeah, I mean it's just kind of interesting to see this stuff. Like there's not perfect examples of like where it's useful, but definitely being able to see the trend. Like I think for me, like for example, algo is really good for seeing a good trend where you have a downtrend, and not only do you like if I zoom out, not only do you have this downtrend, but you have consistently like downward sloping CVDs. So to me, that's showing that the market is overall in agreement that this is just in a downtrend, which is probably a healthy downtrend. Versus, if I just switch to Bitcoin, um, like CVDs all over the place. Like we're ranging, and CVDs are just there's nothing really inherently useful here. You could say, well, CVDs are rising, from this area to this area, so that means there's a bunch of trapped people here. And with funding rates being positive and open interest going up, you could actually derive that. There's longs trapped here. So if price goes down, it'll probably break down. You could derive that, but at the same time, this got bought up and this got bought up, so it's like, yeah, it's very nuanced. All right, well, I'll kind of move away from that. But yeah, so I don't know what this is going to look like in the final version, but one of the things that I did add was every data set before, like, so when you have a data set, it's Bitcoin perp. So I have my Bitcoin perp data set here, and in that I have multiple data models. So price, open interest, funding rate, predicted funding rate, which is also changed to a OHLC model now. So you can actually plot. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. Funding rate switch to OHLC. So now you can plot funding rate candles. It's really glitchy, but you can do it if you want. Um, but yeah, I have all these data models. But one of the things that I wanted to do is like, well, I can't make a single data model for each like CVD line for each size because that would just make things look very shitty. Like that'd be a terrible UX. And so what I did was we've added a new group system where a data model, which is volume by size or OI divided by volume, this can have child data models. This should probably be changed, but so I can add the entire group. Like if I remove the existing one, just remove all this shit. I can add the group on chart, or I could add it off chart, and that adds everything that's here onto the chart, off chart on a single layer. I can also just add a specific one if I just want to see like, CVDs of like 100 to 1 million. Well, first of all, I could do volume by side. I can actually customize what like because this is a volume by side data model, which is the same as this. I get access to the same indicators I would if I was just plotting this. So yeah, I could just do this if I wanted to. Um, yeah, so that's something that if you wanted to do that, you could. I can definitely see that being you. Oh, it's a bug. Okay, that'll be fixed. Um, I can definitely see this being useful if you wanted to do like a CVD comparison chart. So if I just add like, I think I posted this, so I'm not going to rebuild it. I'm just going to share Discord. But in the testers channel earlier today, I was doing some demos where like, so here is Bitcoin. I'll just open it on full screen actually. So here is Bitcoin versus ETH versus Sol versus BNB. Um, large trades CVD. So Bitcoin and ETH, it's 1 to 10 million, and then Sol, it's 100k to 1 million, and BNB is 100k to 1 million. So you can kind of do a relative, like this is a normalized chart, so you can start to do some relative comparison of CVDs um, on certain pairs. Now this is like, this is obviously not super useful if you're looking at the large pairs because they generally trade together. But if we look at something like this, this is so this is I forget which one's here, but I believe the labels are kind of screwed up, but this is Bitcoin, ETH, Ape, and GMT. So I believe that Ape was this purple one. It's not labeled like I said. Ape is this purple one, and then GMT is this one. So you can start to see that like, okay, so while Bitcoin and ETH CVDs are going down, like GMT was going up. Or I think it was GMT. I can't remember. Sorry, but one of these is going up. And if you do some like comparison, like when you pull up the charts next to it, because the crosshairs are shared, you can kind of see like, where on the chart that the CVD was going up, you can start to see like the area, and where the CVD on other charts was going down, because that crosshair will line up because like it's a shared crosshair. Interesting compare. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You talking about the CVD charts or just in general? Um, yeah. So also, aggregated OI is something that's down here. So we added, so one of the new things that I'm going to be doing is, so previously all data sets were called, were just markets. It was like, perpetual markets on FTX. And if we added like Bitfinex, it would be, Bitfinex data sets. But now what we've done is added aggregated perpetuals, which is a new data set that aggregates all the data from FTX perp markets that we track. So any perpetual market that we track, uh, this data set selects everything automatically. It's built on the fly, which is something I'm going to explain in a second why that matters. Like, it's not like if you go to Coinalyze where I assume that if you're looking at aggregated open interest, that's like calculated on its own. This is like calculated on the fly, which is got some drawbacks, but also some really useful things that I'll get into as we go through the roadmap. Um, but yeah, so I can look at aggregated open interest now. And this is one of the problems is that currently I'm gonna fix this like this next week, but there's currently some issues with uh, our listener servers having not entering all the data into the database. So we'll like there's gaps in a lot of the charts right now on like the 1 minute time frame. Sometimes on the hourly you'll notice a gap on like Bitcoin, and those obviously aren't real gaps. So I have to fix that. I know how to fix it, but it's just gonna take a bit of restructuring because obviously like gaps in the actual production release is not going to be acceptable. And that's why there's a gap here is that there's just so many candles that we're missing that open interest gets reported as down here when it's just way up here. But you can still zoom in using shift zoom and you can kind of start to zoom in on a specific point. So I can zoom in and start to see it. Also, I could add in, so there's funding rate, which is the average, I believe it's the average reported funding rate. So this is the total average funding rate of, or no, sorry, this is the, not the total, the average funding rate of all perpetual markets on FTX. So it can be kind of useful, especially if you compare it to like if we add a different data set, like if I added something that was here, like if I add, let's say 1 inch, because I remember back when this went down, 1 inch actually was holding. So I could probably plot the funding rate of that, and I bet you it was positive. Okay, it wasn't. Also, there's a data gap there. Yeah. So that wasn't funding. But yeah, I mean it just can be great to like do relative comparison. Like for example, I remember TRX actually if I add TRX funding rate. Oh actually sorry, TRX open interest. So if we look here, while the like global market was going down, TRX was actually going up. And that was a slight divergence. And then price once open interest went back down, price ended up just keep going up. So yeah, so this can be useful for just like doing relative comparison. I could imagine like where you'd really use this would be, if you actually had a chart. Like I don't know what markets are trending. I'm not really looking at the market, but I remember with TRX, like you could do the candlestick. I'll have to reset the scale. I'll do the actual open interest, and then at the bottom, I'll add another data set, and I'll add aggregated perpetuals, and I can do aggregated open interest, and zoom into that. And then I could add one more data set. I could add Bitcoin perp, and I could look at the actual candlestick price of that. So now I can do comparison of TRX price, TRX open interest, global open interest of FTX perpetuals, and then Bitcoin's actual price. And so, like I said, like with here, Bitcoin went down, global open interest went down while this was going up. So it's just like these are really useful tools for building your own layout and doing relative comparison. So don't know if there's any other useful examples in here, but yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, so that's that. Oh yeah, there is actually a couple more data sets in here. So there's funding rates. So this takes the average funding rate, then the max funding rate, and the min funding rate of all FTX perpetual markets that we track. So sometimes this can be useful for seeing like this. To be honest, it's not super useful because a lot of these pairs are really small. Like the ones that have ridiculously high or low funding rates, like they're really small pairs. So it's not super useful. But yeah, it's there if you wanted to use it. We'll probably do something else with that in the future. And then funding rates count. This is basically a count of the amount of pairs that are at a positive funding rate or a negative funding rate. So right now there's only 37 pairs that have a positive funding rate on FTX and 147 that have a negative funding rate. Um, so yeah. And one of the things is that back here, the reason why this number is so low is that was before we started tracking a bunch of other FTX markets. So yeah, because like I said, all this data is calculated on the fly from our existing data sets. So that's one of the reasons why if there's older data, it might not be like actually accurate because it's pulling data dynamically. Okay, I think that's about it for that. What else? Interest, relative CVD. This chart is still broken. This will have to be fixed at some point. It's completely useless. It's actually incredibly broken. Like if I put on normalized, yeah, that's what you get. There's just too much data here for it to even be useful. So I'll have to figure that out. His is Binance Futures. Are you talking about the funding rates count? Yeah, that was kind of where that was inspired from. Yeah, I mean it's not really inspired; it's just directly copied. But yeah, I saw that he did that and thought it was cool. I don't know if there's anything else. Yeah, I added to the template for FTX BTC perp for the footprint. I removed like the moving average and added this stuff now, but this is like tiny stuff. This doesn't really matter. Okay, I think that's about it for this. Yeah, so I'm gonna update the guide because we have that guide doc that was on Gist. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, material science, dude, he makes some amazing shit. It's a Giga Chad. That's all I can say. There's a lot of people out there making really good shit, but yeah. Um, where is the? Hmm. I must be stupid. Trying to find something while you're doing like a talk is very difficult. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so the gist. So this kind of intro doc is going to be updated because there's like, for example, there's new yeah, there's just new stuff that needs to be added to this. So I'll be updating this. So if I ever say there's an update and you kind of want to like just know what's new, well, first of all, I'm going to make like actual posts on like what is new. Should probably do that, yeah. But also this doc will always be updated. So, yeah. Okay. Um, Now I'm gonna kind of get onto the roadmap. So I wish there was a few more people here. There were some people that wanted to get here, but not everyone could make it, sadly. But I'm gonna kind of talk about like the actual what makes Viper super, what I think is gonna make it like what's the really killer feature set is doing is allowing people to make their own charts. So with aggregated, oh, I should have added an aggregated template. I don't know why I didn't do that. With aggregated open interest, for example, like this is the total open interest of, like I said, all FTX markets. But like I said, with this data being built on the fly, the reason why that's important is that means that in the future, users will be able to customize what the aggregation filter actually looks like. So rather than just aggregating all open interest of FTX, I'm imagining that people will be able to aggregate, people will be able to make basically their own data sets of like, hey, I want aggregated open interest of um, all layer one coins on FTX compared to aggregated open interest of all um, dog coins versus meme coins versus whatever. Like, so that way you can start to kind of get a feel of like where money is flowing in the space. And that doesn't just include FTX. It's just that right now we're only checking FTX perps. But as we go towards the release, I want to add at the very least five of these five markets. So trying to release in late July for the actual like product. Um, there needs to be more data sets, of course. There needs to be more markets that we track, and I think tracking like the top 100 coins on Bitfinex Spot, Coinbase, Binance, KuCoin, and then Bybit Perp. I think that will be super useful. So included in the aggregation system, you'll be able to say, hey, I want the aggregated open interest of Bitcoin from all the exchanges that Viper supports, and then I want to compare that to the aggregated open interest of all layer one coins on all the exchanges that Viper supports. And so that will be like very useful for, like I said, like detecting where money is moving in the space. And the cool thing about that is that's not just like for open interest, because everything is super modular. That doesn't have to just be for open interest. I mean, that can be for, you can create an aggregated data set, and the modal for what stuff you want to display, like let's say you create, yeah, like an aggregated data set, it'll look the exact same as this. You'll be able to say, hey, I want aggregated like volume, like cumulative volume delta of 100K to 1 million orders, or I just want literally aggregated like, whoops, whatever. You could literally have this data set of volume by size, CVD, to be aggregated across the entire exchange or across, like I said, multiple exchanges and different like uh, parameters. So like I said, you could have, try to figure out how to explain it, because there's so many like layers to this. Like it's a very difficult thing to explain properly. I'm pretty sure you guys get it, but I just want to be clear. But like yeah, so if you wanted to compare like CVD by size um, of layer one coins to NFT coins, for example, then you could do that. You could turn this into an actual data set that's like aggregated layer one versus another one on the other side on like the over here. You could compare it basically on a different chart. Or you could just compare like total cumulative volume delta. So because you can plot cumulative volume delta from either here or from here using total and then plot that. So that's total cumulative volume delta um, from just Bitcoin perp. But yeah, so that aggregation system is going to be really important. And what's going to happen is that, so if I go to, you know, if I go to TradingView, so there's something that is going to help a lot with that, which is going to be, where is it in here? Data set tags. So this is basically this thing right here, this dashboards board, whatever it's called. This is all the things that need to happen for what I just explained to be possible, basically. This is all the tasks. So one of them, the first one is data set tags. So essentially, each data model that we, in Viper, like the actual Viper open source framework, because Viper is an open source framework, and then I'm building on top of that. Um, I'm gonna add support for tags for certain data sets and data models. So what that means is that it's going to help users to make those custom charts. It's going to help you guys make the custom charts, because when you go to search for Bitcoin, I'll show you on TradingView. Like if I want to switch the market on here from Bitcoin to, like, let's say, because I'm on FTX right now, I want to see Bitcoin from Coinbase, or what's an example? I want to see it from, like, I don't know, Poloniex. We'll say that's an exchange. So right here, I'm searching Bitcoin, but Poloniex isn't right here. It's like further down the list because it's not super popular. Now I could just search Poloniex. Is it not on here? Oh, okay. Whatever. Let's just say Bitfinex. Oh, I guess you got to do that. Okay. So I can just search for it that way. But if I want to search for Bitcoin like this way, I have to actually know the actual ticker. Like I have to know, or I have to scroll for it. Like it's kind of sometimes hard to find the actual pair you want. So what I'm proposing that I add to Viper is that each data set, which is like this, the same thing as, here. Each data set will have an array of tags. So for example, with Bitcoin Perp, it'll be like the tag will be FTX, which is the exchange. The tag will be perpetuals because it's a perpetual contract. The tag will also be future because not only is it perpetual, it's also a future. Um, Other tags will be like open interest, funding rate, predicted funding rate, all the models it supports. Tag will be also Bitcoin. Like the tag will literally just be BTC. So that means that, imagine there's more exchanges that we support. If I search up BTC, literally everything with the tag BTC will also pop up. Or you'll be able to search just by tag specifically. I don't know how it's going to look in the actual, like, production build. I'm just theorizing. Like I literally came up with this like 2 days ago. And so what that means is that with those tags, um, you'll be able to very easily build custom charts by just using tags as basically filters. You won't have to be like, hey, I want to build, an aggregated, hey, I want to aggregate, all I want to aggregate open interest from all exchanges um, that Viper supports. You wouldn't have to select each individual, you wouldn't have to say, oh, I want Bitcoin USDT. Then I got to go through all these, and then you would just be able to say, I want BTC. And everything with the tag will be selected. Everything that we support, of course. So that'll make it super easy, especially if you want to do complex charts, which is something I'll get into in a second. But yeah, so that'll make it super easy. And like, I don't remember what tags I used as examples before this call. There was like some other examples, but this is like the highest priority. Everything in the dashboard section is the highest priority because I think that um, and you guys can feel free to chime in. Like, I want this to be kind of a discussion. But I think that this is kind of what makes Viper useful. Uh, really useful is the ability to do relative comparison, and not just like relative comparison of like relative open interest percentage charts, which these are useful. Um, but being able to actually aggregate this data because there's like 189 perpetual markets on FTX, and this chart is just too noisy. Not only is it laggy because there's so much data, but it's just too noisy. And so sometimes it's best to just like aggregate some of the data together to make it a little more easy to parse. But yeah, so aggregated charts, this is what I explained. Um, and yeah, and so like I said, like yeah, from there the data set will be like a traditional data set in Viper, meaning that you could plot OHLC candles, SMAs, B bands, or any other indicator that's supported by the same data model that you're aggregating. So like I said, I mean, I could probably actually show you an example. Like if you wanted to do this, whoops, God, those charts are laggy. If I wanted to do it, I could do aggregated, and now look, I can plot aggregated open interest and aggregate open interest SMA, which is a little buggy, but you could do that if you wanted to. This shit's so stupid. But yeah. Okay. And then this. Oh yeah, so this is the filter system. So starting out, when we have these relative charts that are designed here, like funding rates, whatever like that. Like I said, like right now it's selecting all of the tickers that are actually that we select. What just happened? Oh, this chart needs to be fixed. Oh, okay. I know why that's happening. Okay. Um, when you select a relative chart, everything is built dynamically using all of the tickers from the exchange that the template is built from. So for example, FTX in that case. But what I want to add is beyond aggregation, I want to add charts where you can customize, like you can say, hey, I want a template and I want this template to select the funding rate, but I only want it to be of like coins with a funding rate of, greater than, I don't know, um, greater than zero. You could just do just only positive funding rates, or you could do only negative, or you could do ones that are within a set, between this number and that number, so a min and a max. Or you could do it like I want to select um, the funding rates, or I want to select open interest of anything that has open interest up 10% or down 10% in a certain amount of time. Or I want the open interest of every coin that has more than 2 million USD volume in the last 24 hours. So you can start to mix and match those kind of filters. And so this is what I'm kind of proposing is like yeah, here are some examples like relative open interest chart of assets with over 1 million 24-hour volume, like I just said. Same thing here, funding rates. Relative normalized CVD of top 5 24-hour volume assets. Like shit like that. Where every time you load the chart in Viper, it you're sending a request to the server to say, hey, I want a chart with these parameters. And then the server will send you back this chart. And then you can specify like relative normalized CVD of like maybe only from FTX, or you could do it from like I said, like you could do relative aggregated normalized CVD of top 5 24-hour volume assets. So there you would be getting the CVD aggregated um, from the top aggregated 24-hour volume of like all the exchanges Viper supports. So that's a lot. That's a lot to like. That's a lot of like words, but yeah. Um, and so I'm imagining that like starting out by July, we will have a couple templates like these that are predefined that you'll be able to use. Um, but you won't be able to make your own. You could request, like if you have one that you really think would be a cool idea and you just want to try it, like the testers channel or feature requests channel are always open, and I'm more than willing to add the stuff that you guys want. Um, but until then, it'll just be like predefined stuff because eventually, at some point, like I said, as I build this out, I'm going to try to make it modular in preparation for you guys being able to do your own stuff like this, like having a small query language basically for building these charts. So you could define your own template by saying, hey, I want to select the price and the open interest, which would be like, oh crap, which would be like these data models. So I want price, open interest, these two data models from FTX and Binance perpetuals. I only want the price and open interest of the markets that are an open interest greater than 5 million USD and where 24-hour volume is greater than 10 million USD, um, and where 24-hour liquidations are less than 10 million. Just some random query that you could throw together, and that's kind of what I want to. That's the idea of what I'm imagining it'll look like in the future. Yeah. So I think these are like this is super important. Um, and then definitely adding settings like Shakik had talked about in the features request channel, being able to customize like the value that's used in an SMA or an EMA. Like this is very basic stuff that needs to be added to Viper. So that will be coming as well as a color picker because right now all the colors are like randomly generated. So having a color picker will be very important. Um, Also some small stuff like scatter plots. So I actually thought about this today. Like, what if we had a scatter plot of like all of the funding rates from an exchange, like for every pair? You could kind of scatter plot that. I think that'd be interesting just to see where like all the funding rates are concentrated or whatever. Um, so backed volume by size or stacked volume by size volume bars. So I'm imagining like it could be useful to like um, do stacked bars like not like that, but like this for volume by size. So you can kind of see, yeah, that this is a better example, like the concentration of volume based on like here you'd have total, then you'd have like small size, uh, small size, maybe like 0 to 1, then 1 to 10, something like that. I don't actually know how it would work, but I don't know if that would be useful. I think it'd be a nice little experiment. There's just some little things in here, like yeah. So that and then stack trade by count. I'm currently tracking trades by count, or no, trade count by size for each side. So not only are we obviously I added the volume by size, but I also added trades by size. So that's something I have to actually add in the app. Like it's tracking right now, it's just not usable. Um, okay. So this is where I'm going to start getting to some of the questions. So for the exchanges, like what exchanges do you guys primarily use on for trading or for charting? Because right now, obviously, we have FTX, BTC, like we have FTX perps, but like, what about FTX spot or what do you guys think about these right here? The Bitfinex, Coinbase, Binance, KuCoin, Bybit kind of roadmap. Um, Feel free to like write down your thoughts or talk. I don't know. It's up to you. I just kind of want to make sure that I'm not adding stuff that doesn't need to be there or not adding stuff you guys actually want. Um, because yeah, obviously, like yeah. There's some exchanges also that are like really small that some people want me to add, but like that's out of the scope for July. I think like Famex I think was one someone wanted me to add, and I was like, FMX is, I mean, it's definitely, yeah, on the roadmap at some point, but yeah. There's just so many pairs, dude. It's crazy. Like, so many exchanges, and then under that, there's so many pairs. Binance Futures. FTX is restricted in Japan. Wow, I did not know that. Okay. So you would probably want to be able to do Bitfinex, or sorry, Binance Futures. Like Binance Spot probably wouldn't be enough for you. Okay. I casted a vote a long time ago on what were the top exchanges to add, and like that was very in the very beginning. Um, yeah, so Binance was like the top. Then after that, it was no FTX at the top, then Binance, then yeah. Okay, maybe Binance Futures is actually probably more important than Bybit, to be honest. Like I don't even know any actual legit traders that trade on By. Well, no, that's not true. But okay, I will definitely add a note for that. Top 100 Binance Futures pairs. Oh, pairs. Bybit and Bitfinex has old data, right? You're still looking at FTX. Okay. Are you talking about FTX Perps or FTX Spot? Because I think FTX Spot is out of the scope right now. I mean, I think I don't actually know what. Because like I only look at FTX Perps and Bitfinex Spot and Coinbase Spot. I've never looked at FTX Spot. Like obviously, ideally, in an ideal world, I could add everything, but I'm just trying to make sure that I'm on a tight budget. I'm trying to make sure that I'm not going to be spending money in places that don't really need to be spent right now. Bybit and Bitfinex has old data, right? I mean, a lot of past data to see patterns. Yeah, I don't know about Bybit that much, but definitely Bitfinex like order book. There's a lot of data there. Um, like that's one of the reasons why Bitfinex is like the top thing to add for me because Bitfinex Spot has a lot of like people. I don't know if it has a lot of weight in the market, but people think it does, and I kind of tend to agree. Like there's all of a sudden, huge orders. Like if we go on Trading Light, there was all of a sudden like huge orders for okay, why am I signed out? Oh, remember me, that's why. There was like a bunch of huge buy orders, limit buy orders. Wow, where am I? What the fuck? Oh, I'm looking at Luna, that's why. BTC, Bitfinex, Bitcoin USD. What? Okay, whatever. I don't know. I don't know. Okay. Well, I'll write that down. I'll put this below. Put that there. I have to do the calculation estimate on like how much all this is going to cost. So yeah, I'll figure that out. But yeah, so scatter plots is a small thing, stack by side. Okay. Here's something that I want to know if you guys are actually really interested in. So, and I should probably I need to like I never reached out to you guys to get your like legit like personal use cases. So I'm gonna do that um this week because like yeah, we're having a call here, but obviously it's very like one-sided it seems, which is totally fine. So I want to kind of get to know your guys' use cases a little bit better. Um so that way like, figure out what overall what things would be like the most useful for everyone and then obviously try to solve some of your guys' individual problems. Um, one thing is like historical large trades. So store all trades over, I was thinking over 1 million USD in size, in their detailed like full form. So basically no lost detail. Like what exact tick did this occur at? What was the exact size? At what exact price? So that way on a chart, like if we're looking at Bitcoin perp, I should just clear this chart. Um, Bitcoin. If we're looking at Bitcoin perp, and then I do candlestick, and then I look at volume by size, 100 or 1 to 10 million, I do that. You know, I can see where large buys and sells were occurring, but uh not like the particular time or point on chart. So I'm imagining, if you remember like I know on FTX or not FTX, there's on buy why am I retarded? On Trading Light, there is a uh, liquidations bubble indicator. But I think that's just deriven from like it just is derived from liquidations data that's aggregated. It's not based on like individual liquidations. This would be basically, it would look like the liquidations bubble, or it would just be like a point that's plotted on the chart. But it would be an exact point of where a buy or sell order occurred from a large trader. Um, I think it could be useful. Also, we could like customize it by changing the color based on if open interest was going up or not at the time. So you could kind of derive maybe something else from that. Of course, it's very, like I said, it's very difficult to derive data from open interest, but sometimes it works. So yeah, I think that could be pretty useful. I don't know if you guys would ever find that kind of useful in your trading, because sometimes it's nice to know where large positions are placed. Like a lot of large traders seem to suck at calling the bottom or the top. Like they'll often sell the bottom and buy the top. Like here, there was a lot of selling going on. Then there was some buying, selling. This isn't a perfect example, but yeah, I mean, it can be useful. That's something that I personally would really like. And then order book heat maps. So yeah, order book heat maps are going to be coming. I've been tracking Coinbase Bitcoin USD heat map for like the last 3 months, but I want to add the order book heat map for um, at the very least Bitcoin and ETH for every exchange we support. So that will be, right now it's gonna be, we're tracking Coinbase. We'll be doing Bitfinex, Binance, KuCoin, and whatever ones we do end up supporting. And I'm gonna try to figure out uh, how expensive and scalable it would be to support more than just a couple pairs, like the top pairs on exchanges. Because I know that some people like to see the order books on smaller pairs, and of course that's great, but it does take up data. But trying to figure out if I can figure out how to do that, like in a way that doesn't break the bank, I will try to figure that out. Because it doesn't cost that much to host the Bitcoin heat map right now, but as we add more pairs, of course, it will stack up. But yeah. What else? But yeah, so do you guys use the order book heat map in your guys' trades at all? Because for a lot of people, I've noticed it's not a, it is not like a really integral part of trading for them, but it's something that's like it's always a bonus to be able to see like, hey, maybe I'm trying to go long, and all of a sudden on like Coinbase Spot, there's like a huge bid wall, like 1% below or something. Um, it can be sometimes useful for confluence. I feel. Um, oh yeah, I'll just kind of announce some of the other stuff. So TWAP detector, this is definitely out of the scope, but I just wanted to like kind of announce that I want to try to work on this because I've noticed some patterns with, if we look at large trades, a lot of times, uh, what am I trying to say? A lot of times, large traders will, when they're TWAPing, their volume will fall into smaller trades, like 1 to 10k or 10 to 100k or something, and then it's hard to find them. But a lot of times their TWAPper will buy the same amount at the same time, and so I want to try to build something that will automatically detect like when that is occurring, like if it can see patterns in like trades, like maybe it checks, maybe it's like got some sort of store that says, hey, this is the same size as the last trade that occurred a minute ago. And then if another one happens a minute later, the same exact size, it's like, okay, you can probably determine that that person is TWAPing. And then you can start to add up the total and basically say, like, okay, I estimate that this person bought this many contracts at this interval of 30 seconds from this time to this time, totaling in an estimated position size of this. That's kind of what I'm imagining. But like I said, it's out of the scope of now. That's kind of a side project, to be honest. But I think if I could make that work and if it actually has some useful data, which it probably would because TWAPers are trying to TWAP for a reason, whether they're hiding or just trying to get a good position size filled, I think that could be like some real fucking alpha to figure out. The problem is actually figuring out how to build it. But yeah. And then I don't know if this is the scope, but obviously a lot of platforms have been writing on futures liquidation estimations. So like lick levels, potential lick levels. This is somewhat easy to add if you just want to base it on like a high volume delta. Like if there's like a high amount of like buy volume delta, you could just say, hey, you know, plot a lick level for longs getting liquidated at 5x leverage, 10x leverage, 20x, whatever. You could do that. Um, but I would try to build it with like OI, so only base it if OI is up as well. But like I said, like this is kind of more of something that I feel that it's not super important to add right now. This is how I feel though. Like if you guys feel different, just let me know because I know some people have been requesting it, but I think this will come after the launch. Unless it's like I somehow have extra time and I can add it in, then I will do that. Um, but yeah, and then just a couple other things. Like I want to add some more components. I don't know if these two components will be added, but I do think it'd be useful to have like a heat map or grid component that is similar to something like this, where you could see like um, the time axis here, and then this is actually I really do actually need to add this. This is actually pretty important because this is a component that would be usable by anyone integrating with Viper. So right now the only component we have is the chart, but next to it you could add a new component that would be either, this heat map component, or it could be like a live trades liquidation feed component. So think about how Agger.trade is like it's a it's a platform where you can load different types of components, different panes, I think they're called in Agger. So yeah, I think this would be useful for displaying like OI percentage change. So you could have like how much OI changed from this time to this time. The heat map will be here, and then you'd have like your key gen. These would be your pairs, and this would be your time axis and pair axis. So yeah, so 3D data set. This is a three-dimensional data set. This is something that um, some people integrating with Viper have asked for, and so I think it actually would be very useful to add that because that would solve two problems. And then live trades, liquidation feed. So just like on Agger, how there's a live trades feed, it would be definitely useful to have this for all. You could probably this would connect directly to the exchange, so it wouldn't go through Viper. This would be like a free component, um, and it would um, basically be it would just be like Agger, where you could listen for trades on a bunch of different exchanges for a specified set of pairs. So you could say, I want all FTX liquidation, or I want all Bitcoin I want all Bitcoin liquidations and all ETH liquidations on all exchanges. And if they're over like, I don't know, 10K USD in size or something like that, you could do filters like that. Starting out, it would probably only support like one or two exchanges because it takes time to add exchanges. It's an implementation for each. But yeah, those two are kind of bonuses. The heat map grid component thing might come out if I find it useful. I'll have to talk to some other people as well. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think overall about like the idea of most of this being done in July as kind of launch the paid product? Damn, it's already 10:53. Jesus Christ. Fucking been talking for an hour. Uh, I guess there's not not much to say. um, uh, okay, so now I'm gonna kind of talk a little. I can talk a little bit about pricing. So that's something that I've been kind of discussing with a couple other people. So I think the focus before was like if I could make a premium plan that was like $25 USD a month that supported basically everything here besides like the heat map, besides the footprint. Well, yeah, I was trying to cram a lot of value into a small package, but I'm kind of realizing like some people were telling me that that's might not be a good idea due to like alpha decay essentially. So if I was to add, let's say, everything here into a somewhat affordable plan, it's almost like the utility of it might go down because there is some actual alpha here. Like yeah, I'm building a charting platform, and there's a lot of charting platforms that have legit alpha for pretty lower price. But some of the stuff that I'm building here is really unique. Of course, like that's the whole thing with Viper is that it's basically one of the first real relative comparison charting platforms that's like modular. So there's some other stuff out there, but not in the not modular in the way that Viper is, meaning that, you guys can define your own settings. You guys can define what you want to look at, and once we add the aggregation filters and the dataset tags and all that shit, I mean, it's fucking game over at that point, I feel. So I'm thinking about launching, not launching the the $25 a month plan until much later, and instead in July focusing on the people that really want to build the killer features with me. And when I mean build with me, I mean like, you know, I'm focused on what you guys want. Focused on a small group of people that want specific things built. You guys definitely know what you want. You guys are really smart. I follow a lot of you guys on Twitter. So you guys know what you want. And so I think it'd be better for me to focus more on delivering to your guys' needs and try to build the best software for all of us as we kind of get closer to that. Because it seems like even when I collaborate with people and I listen to what they want, it still takes me closer to that relative comparison being like the big thing and aggregated and all that kind of stuff, aggregated data. So I think that the way we're going to do it is in July, the the premium plan is going to be Viper Pro, will be probably 99 US dollars a month, and it's going to be limited for like 100 people. So I don't know if 100 people will sign up. I'm not expecting that, but I'm just saying like there's going to be a limit on how many people sign up. For one reason being that I want to make sure that for the people that do pay for it, it's like high quality. It's not going to have like issues with the servers going down or anything like that. Like all those issues are going to be resolved before July launch. And then two, also so that for the people that do pay for it, which would be a max, like I said, a max of 100, that I can give you guys my full attention on building like a really fucking good product. Um, and yeah, so with a smaller user base, it would allow me to just give more attention to like you guys as individuals, rather than just trying to kind of solve everyone's problems, which is definitely a trap. So that's kind of where I'm at. Um, and yeah, I think that as we add these features, like for some people, I don't know how many platforms you guys use. I know some of you guys use Trading Light, maybe even use Material Indicators, some other stuff. But I'm hoping that for like I know for some people that this platform, Viper, provides a lot of what other platforms will do in one package. It's not going to solve everything, but I think for a lot of people it will do that. So that's why I'm trying to focus on that value prop. Uh, so yeah, that's that. Um, I don't have anything else to say really. Like I said, I'll reach out to you guys individually. Introduce myself to some of you guys. Like I haven't talked to Taz before. Welcome, dude. I know who you are, but I haven't talked to you personally. Um, I'll reach out to you guys. But yeah, is there anything else you guys want to add? Any questions, comments, anything? Cool. I'm gonna assume that that was a no. All right, dudes. Well, thanks for. Oh, sweet. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening. If you guys ever want to check this out again, I mean, if you have any reason to, I have a recording of it, so I'm gonna upload it to the YouTube channel for Viper. Um, and if you ever need anything, just DM me or post in the chat, whatever. If you guys have questions, whatever, just let me know. And yeah, thanks for joining, guys. I appreciate it. And have a good rest of your weekend.